Hi everyone, my name's Kat and welcome to Simple Music Theory, and specifically right now this channel is going to be focusing on simple music theory for guitar. I wanted to make this video to introduce the channel to you and say thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and today I want to cover four main things. First, I want to tell you my goal for this channel. Second, I want to tell you a little bit about myself just so you know who I am and why you should maybe listen to me. Third, I want to tell you about who these videos are intended for. And then finally, I'm going to get on my soapbox and tell you about why I think music theory is so important, why I think it would be worth it to watch these videos and to learn, and how it can impact your playing. First, my goal for this channel is to explain music theory right now, music theory for guitar, in a way that is simple and logical and easy to understand. I used YouTube a lot when I was first learning guitar, and I used YouTube to learn a lot of the theory that I know. And eventually I got here, and obviously I learned something because now I'm going to try to teach you. But I am trying to make the videos that I wish I had when I was learning music theory. I think a lot of people who explain music theory either start at a higher level, so they leave out a lot of the basics that are really hard to find. And even if you understand one concept, then you're still left with a lot of questions about how these concepts tie together and build upon themselves. Or somebody might explain one specific part of music theory really well, but you're still left wondering how it ties into all the other parts, how everything makes sense. What is music theory? Why is it confusing? Why is it hard to understand? And my goal with these videos is the opposite of that. I want to explain everything logically. I want to explain how everything is connected, even though it will take a lot of videos and a lot of time. And my hope is that once I finish making all these videos about music theory for guitar, and once you've watched all of them and practiced with them and thought about them and rewatched them, you will, in the future, be able to explain music theory to yourself. There will be some memorization, because there always is in learning, but it won't be all memorization. It will be, here's the basics, here's how the basics lead to the next step, and the next step, and the next step. And my hope is that you'll be able to climb those steps by yourself and remember everything yourself and explain to yourself how it all fits together. I want to make for you the videos that I wish that I had when I was first learning guitar. But who am I? Let me tell you a little bit about myself. So again, my name is Kat. I've been playing guitar for more than 10 years. And I've been playing piano for even longer than guitar. I think something like 13 or 14 years now. And I also play some other instruments, but those are the main ones. And I learned guitar and piano through a combination of private lessons, YouTube videos, books, and a lot of practice. I've also taught piano and guitar before in person and on Zoom during COVID. And I also write a lot of my own music. So the way that I think about it is I'm thinking about music theory a whole lot of the time. And every single time I'm sitting down with these instruments, I'm thinking about music theory and I'm learning more about it and I'm deepening my understanding of it. And so my hope with these videos is to share that passion and that interest with you in a way that I wish it had been shared to me, because I got here in the end, and it was worth it, but I think I could have gotten here faster and a little more smoothly if I'd had the videos that I am hoping to make for you now. We're on our third topic now. I've told you the overall goal of this channel to teach you music theory in a simple way that makes sense, that's logical, with as little memorization as possible, even though there will be some. I told you about myself and why I think I am a person who can make these videos and maybe teach you something. And now I want to tell you who these videos are intended for. So I see these lessons as being best for a beginning or intermediate guitar player. So someone who has learned some songs, learned some basic chords, maybe learned a solo or two, but doesn't really understand how all these pieces fits together. When you learn a new song, you're not really thinking about like, oh, here are the patterns and here's how it's similar to other songs I've learned. Or maybe you've heard a little bit about chord numbers and you know some scales and you kind of know patterns, but it's all just a little fuzzy. My hope is that these videos would be perfect for you, that I can take some of these fuzzy concepts in your head and really clarify them in a way that makes a lot more sense and makes them really crisp and high definition in your mind. Who these videos are not for. Most importantly, these videos are not for you if you've never actually touched the instrument. So it can be tempting as soon as you start to learn something new to want to learn everything about it. But if you've never picked up a guitar, do not watch these videos. It will be too overwhelming and too confusing. My recommendation for you would be to learn with other resources for at least a month or two. Know some chords, know some songs, get your hands on the instrument. Also, I will not be explaining playing techniques. Questions like, what's the best way to make a bar chord? How do you do a hammer-on, pull-off? How do you hold your wrist? I am not good at explaining those things, and there are so many channels out there that do such a great job of that, and I used them when I was first learning guitar. So if you've never touched a guitar or this is like day 2, don't watch these videos. Go learn a little bit more, then come back to this when you feel ready. I would also say if you're an advanced guitar player, then a lot of these concepts are probably going to be basic for you, and you've probably learned them in one way or another, so these might not be the best videos for you. I think if you're interested in refreshing your memory, or maybe if you want to see things explained in a way that maybe you haven't heard before, it might be fun to watch. I might explain some concepts in a different way or give you a slightly different way to think about things, or maybe some of my memorization tools are different than the ones you learned. So you might still get something out of it, but this is really aimed at people who maybe have just dipped their toe into music theory or haven't even tried it all. And this is that course to get them up to speed, to bring you to a more intermediate, advanced intermediate understanding of music theory. We've talked about the goal for the channel. I've told you about myself. I've told you about yourselves, who the people are that I expect to watch this video and get something out of it. And now, perhaps the most important question, why? Why do I think this is so important? Why do I feel so driven to make the videos I wish that I'd had if I ended up here anyway and I got the knowledge, and so other people can find the knowledge somehow, somewhere? I think the best way to explain it is through an analogy. I love learning languages also. That's another hobby of mine in addition to music. And I think of music theory like grammar. And I think of songs as vocabulary, or sentence chunks, if you will, not just single words. When you're learning a new language, if you just sit down and try to learn the grammar, there's absolutely no point. You will literally be able to say nothing. Like, congratulations, you can say past tense. What will you say in past tense? Nothing. So, like I was saying earlier, if you're brand new to guitar, if you've been playing for one day, if you sit down and try to learn music theory, it won't mean anything to you. It's going to be really hard to understand. There's nothing to apply it to. And tomorrow you still have to figure out how to even push notes down on the guitar. So it's not enough to only know grammar. However, when you're learning a language, if you only ever learn vocabulary, you spend every day for the next 5 years learning vocabulary word, vocabulary word, vocabulary word, and then you memorize common sentences, and you just repeat those over and over and over and over, and you never learn anything about grammar. Just through brute force and repetition, eventually you will be able to say a lot of things, and you will be able to understand a lot of things when other people are talking, just because you've repeated things so much that you've memorized them. But it will be really hard to say new things. Eventually you might get to a point where you just have so much repetition that maybe you can do it, but you'll be really limited in what you're able to produce because you don't know the overall rules that will allow you to create something new that you haven't said or heard before. Also, if you never learn grammar, when people say things to you, you might kind of get what they're saying because maybe you recognize some of their vocabulary words, but there are certain grammatical concepts that are really tied to grammar, and if you don't know that grammar, sometimes it can also be hard to understand what's being said to you and thinking of a response, or even if you want to repeat what that person said to you earlier but you don't have the grammatical structure in your brain to insert those words, it all just falls apart. That is how I think of music theory. If you just spend the next 5 years learning song, solo, lick, song, riff, solo, you will be a good player, especially if you practice enough. You'll be a really good player. And just through sheer repetition, you will start to even subconsciously notice patterns, and you will get faster at learning songs. And you might even be able to produce your own songs because your ear is tuned into those patterns. However, what I implore you is that with music theory, you could learn all that so much faster. If you start learning music theory towards the beginning, you don't need to take 5 or 10 years to learn every single song in the sun to learn patterns that you could have learned in less than a year if you had taken some time to really understand how those things fit together. Also, music theory gives you that context when you learn a new song, so that right away, especially for things like simpler pop songs or rock songs, which I love to play those, that's no shade, but there are certain genres that tend to be simpler and use a lot of the same patterns. As soon as you see those, it's like, oh, I recognize this pattern, I know what notes will probably fit, I know what to expect, and I'll recognize it right away if something unexpected happens, and that's really interesting. And then if you're interested in creating your own music, then let's say you hear a new song and it does something unexpected, even though the rest of it's a familiar pattern. Instead of taking that exact song and going, okay, I want to do it again in my own music, you can say, here's the pattern that they used. Here's what was unique about it. I can apply this piece of the pattern to my own music and actually create something new and really cool. And that is a really awesome use of music theory. And that is what I hope to achieve through these videos. I want to give you music theory that you can use every time you play a song, every time you learn a new song, and every time you write a song. Whew! I am obviously very passionate about this. So here's the last thing I'll say, or else I'll be here for another 2 hours. To me, the biggest value in learning music theory and learning these patterns that apply to music, that apply to songs, that you can apply to your own music and songs, is that when I first started learning guitar, my only goal was to be able to play like myself. I know a lot of people pick up an instrument because they might be inspired by somebody else playing that instrument that they heard and they want to sound like them, and that's awesome. That's such a good reason to play. I never had that connection. I just thought, I want to be able to express myself through this. I want to feel an emotion and have a thought and sit down and allow that to come out through my fingers, through the guitar, through music. And it took more than 10 years, and it took every single day and every single one of those 10 years. But I could tell you that I made it, and I can now sit down when I want and play the guitar and play how I'm feeling. And that is such a beautiful feeling, and that is such a beautiful experience that's so hard to replicate. And that is what I want for you. And I'm telling you right now that you can get there a lot faster and a lot more smoothly with music theory. And I think it's just the key that unlocks everything and all the fun in guitar. That might be slightly overstated. There's fun even if you don't get into all this stuff, but I think it really unlocks that next level and allows you to really connect with the instrument and to really connect with songs that you learn and songs that you might write. Learning about music theory is a continuum, just like anything else. There's people who know absolutely nothing and don't want to learn anything, and that's fine for them. And then there's people who are super, super into it and like it almost more than music itself, and that's also cool for them too. So there are people who are way more into music theory than I will ever be, who have way more academic discussions than I ever hope to have. And as you can see, I'm probably more interested in this than the average musician, so you don't have to be this passionate about it, and you don't have to get this into it, and you might not find all the details in the videos as interesting as I do. I'm going to try to keep it surface level and basic, but obviously if you can't tell, I'm interested in this, so it might get a little deep sometimes. So you don't have to be interested in all those details and get as deep. But my last thing that I will say is that I do really implore you to at least learn the basics, and that's what I hope to share with you with this channel, because I really think those basics will unlock your playing in a way that few other things can, and in a quicker way. It won't be easy, and it's not quick like watch all these videos in a Saturday and you'll play different on Sunday. It does take time and it does take effort, and it takes a lot of brain power at first before these things become easier, and it takes a lot of repetition. But in the long run, it's shorter, because you do that for a few months and then things really start to click into place and everything clicks in faster and faster because music theory is all connected. Versus if you ignore this stuff and you just learn a lot of songs, you'll get roughly the same knowledge eventually, but it won't be as clear. It won't be as easy to articulate if that's something you ever need to articulate, and it will take way longer. Okay, well, I hope that I sold you enough in that short little intro. In this video, I introduced you to the channel, Simple Music Theory, right now, specifically Simple Music Theory for guitar. I told you about my goal for the channel, wanting to make the videos that I wish I had when I was starting guitar. I told you a little bit about myself and a little bit about my time learning the guitar. I told you about who these videos are for and who they are not for, and I told you a lot about why I think this is an awesome thing to learn. So if you watched all the way to the end, thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you listening to all my ranting and everything I had to say. If these videos sound like they'd be interesting to you, if this is something you want to learn more about, go check out the channel. Subscribe so you know when the next video is coming. Leave a like on this video so other people see it. And please, if you have any questions or any comments in response to my comments, please leave me a comment. I want to answer all of them. I really want this channel to be a useful resource for you, and any comments you leave me with questions or with helpful notes will help me become a better teacher and better at explaining things. And I'm learning too. Every time you explain something, you learn more about it too. So this is going to be a great experience. Thank you for watching. I'm excited for more simple music theory with all of you. And until the next video, bye!